Hello and welcome to B2B Revenue Leaders. I'm your host, Dustin, and this episode is brought to you by Testimonial Hero. Testimonial Hero turns your customers into your best salespeople through strategic video testimonials. Learn more at testimonialhero.com. On this episode, I'm joined by Eric Konovalov, who is the founder of The Goal Guide. And we spend our time talking about how our personality types can be described by 4 different types of birds, how to know which bird someone is and what to avoid or focus on with that person in order to close deals with different types of birds. So a whole lot of birds talk, but really it's a more natural way to understand disc selling and really sell on personality type. On to the episode. Hey, Eric, welcome to the show.
Hey. Thank you for having me. How you doing, Dustin?
Doing well. How about you?
Doing awesome.
Yeah, so this is, Friday morning for me, kicking off with a good conversation here. I'm looking forward to it. We're going to talk a lot about personality types, how to sell to different ones, how to figure out probably who is which personality type so you can kind of game plan. But before that, you mentioned something when we were talking before, how sales is a transfer of emotion, and that emotion you want to transfer is certainty. And I liked how concise that was, but I do want to unpack it a bit. Like, let's focus on that topic a bit and maybe dive into what you mean there.
Yeah, for sure. So if you've been in sales for any period of time, you've probably heard somebody say, we buy emotionally, we justify it logically, right?
Yeah.
And so what does it mean to buy emotion? Well, emotion is energy, and energy can never be created or destroyed. So that means that energy passes from one source to another source. So as a sales rep, I'm the originator of that source of energy. So I have to I have to get that energy through my product, through my service, through my belief in what I'm doing, through my belief in my company. And I have to transfer that emotion to you, the buyer, for you to get super excited about this stuff, just like I am, right? So number one, if you're a salesperson, show up excited. If you don't like what you're selling, don't sell it. It's not going to work. I don't think you can fake it till you make it for very long. So anyway, so what I mean by, sales as a transfer of emotion is exactly that. And the emotion that we want to transfer is certainty, and they have to be certain in 4 things. Number one, they need to be certain that the company that you are representing is going to do exactly what you say you're going to do. Mm-hmm. Number 2, your product or service that you are trying to sell is going to get them the results that they desire. Number 3, that you, the sales professional, is the right person for them, that you will stick by them, that you are going to be at your company, that you will take their call after the sale is made. And number 4, it's your offer. They got to be certain that the price is good for the value that they're getting, right? And so those are the 4 keys. If you can get them to be certain in those 4 areas, you'll close the deal.
Yeah, such an interesting way to look at it, because it's kind of drawing a parallel here to, let's say you have a friend who is really into a hobby. When they start talking about it because they're passionate, you kind of automatically get excited, right? And you get interested. So yeah, I like that concept with sales. And I do think it's a good call to sell something you actually care about, because, I've sold things I obviously didn't care about or like, or even trust too much in the past, right? And it's a lot harder than when you can actually sell something you do care about. So I think, this is a good way to segue into the personality types, because talking about excitement, if someone comes in overexcited to me, maybe it's my personality type, I view it as kind of salesy, whereas other people might get super pumped up and love that kind of over the top energy approach. So let's unpack the personality types. I know you have some visuals as well, which is going to help drive this home, but yeah, let's do it.
I do, Dustin, but can we play a game really quick? Just me and you.
Let's
do it. Is that okay? All right. Yeah. Think about this. You got to buy a TV. Okay. It's nothing urgent. There is no Super Bowl happening. So you don't have to get it for that. And your TV is not broken, but you got the idea. I want to buy a TV. It is the big one. It's the one that all your guests and friends are going to come over and see. What are the steps from the moment you get this idea in your head to the moment that TV is on your wall? What has to happen?
Yeah, to me, so do I have the exact TV in mind, or I just know I want a TV?
You know you want a TV.
So my personality type is I'll research it a whole bunch and pick out the ones I want, look online, to the point where I'm, 90% sure when I go in a store that this is the TV I want. Admittedly, I've been talked out of it, but yeah, that's really my approach, is figure out the exact model I want, why, where it's sold, and where it's sold the cheapest, and go and find it.
Yeah. So even if you got this idea in like May, you might wait till Black Friday of that
Oh,
year to
100%.
go get
Yeah.
it. 100%. You hear that?
Yeah.
100% certain that that's what you're going to do. And
Yeah.
then the other thing is that I want to point out is when you said I'll research it, chances are you're not researching it on Amazon to see what the reviews are on Amazon. I'm going to guess that you're going to like sources in the tech magazines to research that.
Yeah. Go to CNET or something like that, right? To look
Yeah.
around and see the reviews. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't even know CNET is a thing, right? The review
Yeah.
thing. Let me just share with you how I would buy a TV. I'm driving home from work and I get an idea that, I might need a TV. As I'm driving, look up the nearest Best Buy. I pop into the nearest Best Buy and I already know that it's probably either going to be an LG or a Samsung. I go
Hmm.
to the guy and I say, what's the best 80-inch TV that you have? Now, here's the other thing you didn't tell me that I'm gonna guess. You probably measured the space you have for the TV.
Yeah. Yeah. Mine barely
Yeah.
fits. I got about a quarter inch on each side.
You got a quarter inch. You knew exactly. You
Yeah.
knew exactly how much it was gonna be. Me, I will show up in my 5 Series BMW and buy an 80-inch TV
Hope
on
it
the
fits.
spot on my way home, not even thinking about how is it gonna fit in my car, which it won't. So
Yeah.
therefore, then I call my friends with a truck and I say, "Hey, can you meet me at Best Buy? I'm standing here with a brand new TV that's not fitting in my car." Right? Now, I can come home and then realize that I don't even have enough room on my wall for this TV. And
Hmm.
therefore, I got to now take the truck and take the TV back. And the difference there, my friend, is that I am an eagle, parrot personality style, and you are an owl. So let's unpack that a little bit. Okay. And isn't it important for us to know that? If you're the
Hmm.
salesperson at Best Buy or wherever, isn't it important to understand who you're dealing with? I
Yep.
couldn't care less what the refresh rate or hertz or whatever it is, right? It's on that TV. It's like if the picture looks good, I'm getting it. If it sounds good, I'm getting it. If I like the sales guy, I'm getting it.
Hmm.
So there are 4 personality styles, and this is based on DISC. The challenge with DISC is it's hard to remember, right? Like when we grow up, D stands for DOG dog, right? And C
Yeah.
stands for CAT cat. It doesn't stand for dominant or conscientious styles. However, in this, that's how they did it. But this guy, Merrick Rosenberg, came up with this model for the birds, and I got licensed to teach this stuff through him. And there are really 4 styles. And so the
Hmm.
first one is going to be the eagle. And if you think about a real live eagle, you probably already know the characteristics of an eagle. They fly really high up. They're not flock birds, right? So they're high up. They're seeing the world at a 10,000-foot view. If they see a little rabbit, chances are that eagle is, letting out a loud screech and diving 200 miles an hour, focusing on that rabbit, snatching him up, taking him to his little baby eaglets, right?
Hmm.
Those are eagles. They're very goal oriented. They make decisions very quickly. They're decisive. They're dominant. They are process oriented, and they're gonna go for what they want. Like the eagle is not asking the board for approval to go get the rabbit, right? He's just
Yeah.
gonna go get it. So that's the eagles, and it's good to know because these are the people you're selling to a lot of the times, eagles, and you're selling to all these personalities. So I'm gonna describe them to you. Next one is a parrot, right? Like, and if you think about real life parrots, what are they like? They're party birds, right? They're very social. They're hanging out with a ton of other parrots. You're going to hear them before you see them. And if you're in sales, you've probably shown up to a happy hour and there's that one person
Yeah.
at the bar that's loud, buying shots for everybody. You know that's a parrot. You know it. They're dressed in colorful shirts and things like that. And everybody knows them. Everybody's high fiving them. Very optimistic. Parrot's motto is like, what can possibly go wrong? Right? Like they're not thinking about that. And then you have the dove who's like, what can possibly go wrong? Let me list this stuff out to you. Doves are they're very safe, right? Doves don't like change. And if you think of a real live dove, they're it's a symbol of peace. They want to make sure everybody's okay and everybody's well taken care of. And doves are calm and collected, and if it ain't broken, don't fix it. Chances are doves invented that. They're not your pioneers that are gonna, hey, we got to do better, better, better. And a lot of times you'll find nurses to be doves because they want to take care of people. Now, any profession, any style can do any profession. I'm not saying that all nurses have to be doves. I'm just saying that
Mhm.
that's usually where you find them as teachers and nurses. So far making sense?
Yeah, totally. It's
Uh,
funny. I learned disc before, but same thing. If I'm trying to remember the letters, I remember dominant, conscientious, lost the middle too. So this is helping.
yeah, influencing and safe. God, I don't even remember the S. And I've
Yeah.
been teaching disc, right? So it's all birds for me now. And secure, I think. Doves are your S type, which is secure. So anyway, the owl is the fourth style. And when you think of an owl, most people, like if I'm in front of a room and teaching this, most people say when I ask them, what do you think of when you think of an owl? They say wise. Well,
Mhm.
every style can be wise, right? But the owls, they're very detail oriented. Owls, a real life owl can be in pitch black in the dark. They're seeing a little rodent go through the forest. When they fly, you can't hear their wings flapping. Owls are incredible. They've got sharp talons. They don't miss a thing. They can spin their head almost 180 degrees. They miss nothing. And so imagine selling to an owl the way an eagle would buy.
Yeah.
Imagine you walking in to a Best Buy and I come, the parrot sales guy, and I'm like, "Hey dude, what's going on? I love your shirt. You know, looks like you drive a truck, so that means you like to hunt and everything like that." Like start making all these assumptions. "Oh man, let me show you this TV. This TV is super cool because it has, good refreshing rate and all the cool colors and it's Samsung and it's huge and it's large." And I don't give you any of the details or compare it to anything else or give you, the brochures to look at or anything like that,
Hmm.
chances are you're not buying from me. Now, if an owl who's a salesperson comes to me with a ton of details and sends me spreadsheets and comparisons and tabs that I need to open, like if I got to scroll down your email, chances are past the first two lines, I'm not reading it.
Yeah.
So do you see why it's so important for us as sales professionals to understand who we're selling to and mold our message in the way that they like to buy?
Yeah. 100%. So I want to get into some of those clashes, like you said, right? Like a parrot and an owl, maybe might not get along on the sales side. But the one thing I do want to ask is everyone the same type of bird all the time? And the reason I'm asking that is when it comes to electronics and stuff or certain things, I research like crazy. When it comes to other stuff, it's just an impulsive decision and it's very, very different. So I'm
Yeah.
curious about that. Like, is that just how it is with people or what?
No, great question. No, yes, everybody. So all of us have all these birds. We're
Hmm.
all four of them. It's just which ones do we flex most naturally? That's
Yeah.
so when I say, this person's an owl or a dove, it's really at work that we're talking
Hmm.
about. Now, this helps understanding your spouse as well. But for me, I realized that I'm a very high parrot when I'm selling and a very high eagle when I'm buying.
Yeah, that makes
Two
sense. Yeah.
different things, right? So yeah, the way you know which bird you are naturally is that it gives you energy when you're in that space. So for
Hmm.
example, I do quite a bit of teaching, training, coaching, public speaking. As a parent, that really fills me up. Like I get off stage and I'm like, man, that was awesome. I get energy from people. This is great. My
Yeah.
wife, who's an owl dove, she can go and deliver a killer speech. Like she is amazing, probably better than I can. And when she gets off stage, she is drained and wants to take a nap.
Yeah.
So anybody can do all these things. It's just what's going to happen. Like I can sit there and analyze spreadsheets all day. I want to go take a nap afterwards. I need to be with people to get the energy, right?
Yeah. No, I think that's a great way to describe it. So let's talk about some of those clashes. And then also I want to dive into how you can adapt and kind of spot, you know, how you maybe should act or how you should tone things back or maybe dial things
Mm.
up. So what are some of the common ones where, these two birds just yeah, there can be issues, there can be clashes there.
Yeah. So if you're looking at kind of like a square grid, right? The top, the top two birds. So top left is going to be your eagle, and top right is going to be your parrot.
Hmm.
On the bottom, below the parrot is a dove, and below the eagle is an owl. So it's important to understand that. And so the left side, which is your eagle and owl, they are process oriented. The right side are people oriented.
Hmm.
the top, which is the eagle and the parrot, they're extroverts, and the bottom tend to be the owls and doves, they're introverts. And so the exact opposites would be the styles that most naturally are going to clash is going to be your parrot and the owl. They're going to clash.
Mhm.
And your eagle and the dove are going to clash. So as a salesperson, you got to remember you have to flex your style.
Yeah.
So, hey, if you're a parrot, which a lot of sales professionals are, it sucks when your client comes back with 50 questions.
Yeah.
It just sucks. And they want comparisons and they want spreadsheets and they want charts. The question for you is, do you want the deal or not? You got to deliver it to them the way they're asking for it, right? You got to give it to them the way they're asking for it. And so I would do the research. I would do the research for them ahead of time.
Mhm.
I remember, so I was leading a team for a technology company, and we were dealing with the CFO, and then they brought in a consultant. Now, if you're a sales guy, the worst possible thing that can happen is you have a relationship with someone and they bring in a
Yeah.
outside consultant that has nothing to do with you. Now, we were selling managed print services, a bunch of copiers, printers, like stuff like that. And I was the director of sales, and I had a sales rep that was on the account. And so she comes to me and she's like, "What do we do?" Here we are, like 8 months into this thing. We got so much data on it. And she's like, "What do we do? Like, here's this new consultant. We got to meet with him, this and that." And I thought about it. Well, what would like, how do we make his life easier?
Yeah.
And we came in and like she was great, but what we ended up doing essentially is organizing all the data we've gathered over the last 8 months, and we're the ones that gave it to him.
Mhm.
So we came in, we said, here's everything we've done. Here's all the data. Here's what you need to know. Here's by location, what each printer is printing out, how much money it's costing you to produce one document. Like he had no idea. I mean, we made him look so good.
Yeah.
That wore me out. I would never do that. I would never naturally want to do that. It wore me out, but I gave him all the data and it positioned us as the expert, and I gave it to him in the style that he wanted it. After another probably 6, 7 months of him going through 5 other companies, no one came close to giving him the stuff we gave him and making his life easier. He trusted us as his trusted advisors. We almost ended up writing the RFP for this thing, and we won. That deal ended up being the initial deal ended up being between four and $500,000, and then within the next 12 months, we probably no within the next 24 to 36 months, we probably sold him another $700,000 worth.
Mhm.
So this is 1.2, $1.3 million account for one salesperson that we sold to him the way he wanted to buy and made his life easier.
Yeah, I think that that anticipation point is key as well there, like actually thinking ahead and planning. And that's probably a fair assumption though, right? Like a consultant is just going to look at the numbers. It's same thing if they're thinking of buying your company, they don't care about anything else. They're going to run their numbers through their spreadsheet, and you have to do that. What I'm curious about is how else can you prepare or be like ready to quickly adapt
Mhm.
on sales calls when you're not sure? So how do you spot it? And for the scenario there, let's picture like if an eagle comes at a dove too hot out the gates, it's going to burn that relationship probably pretty quick.
Oh,
They're
yeah.
too dominant. So how can someone spot like, oh, this person might be a dove or something else, and then quickly adapt and change how they sell?
Yeah, so you can do research online. Take a look at their software. I'll give you a link. It's actually an affiliate link for me. Software is called Humantic AI, and it's really like a dongle that you put on um, right on your Google Drive. What's it called? The Google widget or something? What are these things up here? A-
Oh,
Anyway,
extensions.
yeah, it's an
Yeah.
extension. That's it. And so anywhere you are, even on LinkedIn, if I look you up, it goes to work and it tells me exactly what your style is. It tells me it doesn't use the birds, it does the DISC. It
Yeah.
tells me how to email you, how to greet you, what to say, what not to say. That's the easiest thing. So make an investment, and I'm sure it's like 15, $20 a month. It's not a lot. I'll give you guys a link for like a free trial to that. But that tool has been amazing. When you're typing out an email, the tool kicks in and says, this person is so and so, you might want to
Yeah.
rephrase your email this way. So you have tools. Now, If you don't want to, you got $0 for budget, you don't want to invest, how else can you tell? Okay. Through a handshake, you can tell quite a bit. If a person gets up, shakes your hand very firmly, sits back down, and they want to get right to the business, chances are you're dealing with an eagle. Get the business. Do not, whatever you do, look around the room and start pointing out pictures and talking about how you also like to go golfing and fishing and all that. A lot of times, sales professionals confuse building rapport with commonality. Commonality, nobody needs it. Rapport, they're going to respect you. Like eagles will respect you and build rapport faster if they see you as a professional,
Mhm.
right? So keep that in mind. Their office is usually going to be very clean, and typically on a wall they're going to have like an award that they've won, or potentially their school, diploma or whatever they got, right? So that'll be on the wall, but it's not going to be a whole lot of pictures. It's not going to be a whole lot of stuff. It's just going to be down to the point. Your parrots, I mean, it's going to be a fun office. Their favorite team is going to be there. They're going to have pictures of them and their buddies. It's going to be colorful. Like you'll feel the atmosphere. They want to talk to
Mhm.
you. They want to get to know you. With parrots, you got to be very careful to bring them back into the conversation at hand, because they're going to fly off, as I like to say, fly off to Pluto, right? One minute you're talking business, next minute they're talking to you about their trip, and then the meeting ends because they have another meeting that they didn't budget for, right? So
Yeah.
you got to guide them, but be likable, let them talk, let them share ideas. Parrots will love you for that. Your doves, not all doves do this, but only doves do this. If you get the double handshake, that's a dove,
Mhm.
100%. But not all of them will do that. And so doves are going to be more soft spoken. We got to understand that they're really scared of change. They don't want to change anything. You're probably a threat. So when you're selling to doves, you got to bring your team in. And your whole point there is that if they go with your solution or your product, it's going to be so seamless for them, they won't even notice. And so the way to do that is, one, they're not making a decision today. So never, ever pressure a dove. Let them get comfortable. Doves will easily make a decision on something on May and wait till Black Friday to buy it because they get the better deal, right? So you just
Mhm.
have to be patient with them. That's who they are. Pressure is not going to work. So with doves, you want to introduce them to your team. You want to help them understand that they're going to be making a huge impact, that they're well supported, and by making this decision, they're going to make their team and their company better. That's what they value. So that's your doves. And owls, here's a rule of thumb. If you can't tell what the style is, it's probably an owl. They're not emotional. They're
Yeah.
not going to give you anything. They're not going to tell you about their family. They want to know facts. They want to know as much detail as possible. As you get into the conversation, through their questions, you'll realize that that is an owl. They've done research and they probably know about your product more than you do.
Ties in with the not hearing the wings flapping, eh? I get the
That's
parallel
yeah.
there.
That's a good one. Absolutely.
Yeah. Cool. So I think I mean, this is true for all things in sales, but a lot of it comes down to actually doing the reps, like the reps and sets of learning a new technique, a new style. This seems like one that it'd be hard to learn on the fly in sales calls. Like I know that's how you got to get reps in, but curious, someone really sees the value in this. They're like, yeah, I get this. I need to implement it. How do they actually do that? Like, how can they effectively practice this at low stakes, I guess, to get good at it?
Yeah. So, I mean, I have a program that we come into companies and we teach this for at least a half a day. We spend on this and we nail
Yeah.
it and we like give examples, and people, it's a muscle that you're going to have to train, right? So get books. If you don't want to bring me in, get books, learn as much as possible about it. Look at YouTube videos, just learn, learn, learn. Or bring a guy like me in. My wife and I do these trainings for companies all the time. We come in, everybody gets an assessment. You understand your style, you understand your teammate style. And by the way, when you do that, so many aha moments there because you're like,
Yeah.
oh, that's why they act like this. I'll give you a quick story. I used to have this CEO. He was the president of the company. I worked for a company that was owned by Xerox, and I was a sales manager. And this guy drove me insane. And I thought he was just the biggest jerk, the biggest micromanager. Every time you saw him, he was with a spreadsheet and he would pull people's logs like, okay, they were supposed to make X amount of calls. How come this person didn't make that many calls and they made this many calls? And at 5 o'clock, he would just walk into my office, sit down, and start going through a freaking spreadsheet. And I'm like, I don't know, man. They closed $60,000 today. That's probably why they didn't make the calls. Do you want to making calls or closing deals? They should, and it's like just so analytical by the numbers. And I left that job because
Mhm.
I felt like I was being micromanaged. I left it. I'm like, I can't do this. This isn't for me. I'm gone. And it's really because I just didn't understand him. The way he gets information is through detail. He needs to really understand everything that's happening, what the process is behind it. The way I get information is just give me high level overview. I don't need the details. Give me the steak. Don't tell me all the ingredients.
Mhm.
Right. And so I'm communicating to him the way I want to be communicated to. But, I'm speaking Chinese and he's listening in Russian. It doesn't make sense. So we're just frustrating one another. The second I learned this, because my wife and I are complete opposites, the second I learned this, we implemented within my marriage. So, for example, that TV example I gave you,
Mhm.
it's not too far from the truth of how I buy things. And I make terrible decisions very, very quickly. And then we got to spend time correcting those decisions. So once I realized that my wife is the analyst, what I do now is I got to put my parrot and eagle, that spontaneity, in check. And I say, hey, sweetheart, listen, I'm thinking about getting a TV. I'm thinking it should be between 50 and 80 inches for this wall. Do me a favor. Can you figure out what the best option is for that? You think you could do that next like 5, 6 days? And she's like, yeah. Now she's not pressured to buy something that I just got this crazy idea for, because that's completely out of her comfort zone, right? And that
Mhm.
stresses her out. Like, what do you mean you're just going to buy an 80-inch TV? How do you know it's the best deal? We didn't do consumer reports. We didn't look at Price Shop, right? So now she's the one that gets to do this. She loves creating spreadsheets. And then 5 days later, she brings me into her office. She's like, hey, here's what I'm thinking. And then I say, which one would you pick? She says, this one. I said, go pick that. All right, we're buying that one. Because I don't care.
Yeah.
And now everybody's happy. But just because I was able to pause now and allow her to buy the way she likes to buy, it's night and day difference in my marriage, and it's night and day difference in selling to your clients.
Yeah, I think so. There's a really good point there too, where we've been talking a lot about sales, but even within, like you said, with the spouse or even within a company as well, I think these skills can come in really handy to navigate things. And one last question, actually, before we wrap, is I'm curious if there's certain, we talked about ones that clash, right?
Mhm.
I can also see ones that complement each other. Maybe it's the same ones that clash, and it just depends on how you handle it. But you always see or often see like a visionary CEO, which is probably close to an eagle, right? Like they're out doing their thing. They know the high level what they want to do, but you got to
Yeah,
pair them with an operator or it goes off the rails, right?
exactly.
So I'm curious, yeah, which pairs work and is it the same ones that actually clash? And it all comes down to communication.
Well, I think we're talking a couple different things here, right? So strictly from sales, if an eagle selling to an eagle, that's going to work very, very well,
Yeah.
right? So I had a client. He was a CEO for like 32 location hospital group,
Mhm.
big medical practices. Eagle off the charts. I think that eagle killed every other bird that potentially lived within him. Okay. Like eagle off the charts. Me and him got along very well because I can show up with with a blank contract for $120,000 and say, here's what you need in these 3 locations. Sign right here. We're going to deliver next week. And he's like, boom, done. Because I've
Yeah.
built that trust with him. He knows me. He trusts me. And that's it. There was no proposal, nothing. I literally show up with a contract signed here. So my wife at the time, she was doing healthcare consulting. So one of the times me and him are having lunch and I said, hey, how are you guys doing with your billing and this and that? And he's like, oh, we're struggling. I said, let me just make an intro for my wife. I think she could potentially help you out. They met, he falls in love with her, tells her that, all his challenges, asks her for a proposal. When he asks her for a proposal, in his mind, all he's saying is, bring me the paperwork I need to sign.
Yeah.
In her mind is, I need to sell him with this proposal. So for a week, I didn't see my wife because she would be working till 11 p.m. working on this elaborate proposal as an owl would do.
Hmm.
It was 22 pages, Dustin.
He's not going to read that.
So she's got a lunch scheduled with him on Friday. Finally, Thursday, she calls me into her office. She's like, honey, can I go over this with you so I can practice and show as an owl would? She's a
Hmm.
perfectionist. So I look at it and my eagle brain is like all over the place. And I'm like, hey, can I make a recommendation? Like, yeah. I said, make it shorter. She's like, you're crazy. He can't make a decision without this stuff. And she goes logically and explains to me why everything in there makes a lot of sense to keep in there. I said, you know what? You're right. I don't know your business. Hey, I'm smart. I don't care if she gets this deal or not. It'd be great if she does, but keeping my wife happy is more important. I said, yeah, you're right. I don't know anything about your business. Just go ahead and do your thing. She comes home after lunch the next day, pissed. Dustin, she's so pissed off. I'm like, what happened? You didn't get the deal? She's like, no, I got the deal. I said, so what happened? She said, I gave him the proposal that I worked on for a week. He doesn't look at anything. He flips back to the last page, he asked like 5 questions that were in the proposal, and then said, okay, can you guys start in 2 weeks? That's an eagle, right?
Yeah.
So that was a good learning lesson for all of us there.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great story to illustrate it and kind of wrap it all up here. So I know we're going to include the links to a couple different things, but you also have, we were talking before this about the arsenal, which has, you put together a whole lot of content
Mhm.
essentially for people. So let's maybe quickly talk about that, and then yeah, we'll wrap this thing up.
Yeah, in my arsenal, there's a few things, and there's like a section for life because I'm a life coach. There's a section for sales because I do some sales training, and there's a section for leadership. If you're a sales leader, there's like 37 sales, really good sales meeting ideas. Because I remember being a sales leader trying to figure out what to talk to people about in
Yeah.
meetings. So compiled those and I put them all behind into this thing called the arsenal. The one thing that I think you guys will really benefit from is everything I talked about with these birds. I put in a PDF document. I think it's like 15 to 20 pages or so. And it has every single thing about each bird that you will need, the do's and don'ts, how to identify which bird, what to do when you're selling to them, and most importantly, what not to do when you're selling to them. So there's a link for the arsenal. When you sign up, I am going to ask you for your email and your name so we can communicate with each other, but then you get access to that. And any new documents I upload in there, you'll always have access to it lifetime. So I would definitely go in there, download that one PDF. It's going to be a game changer for you.
Awesome. So we'll include links to that, everything else you need for everyone listening. Eric, thanks a lot for joining me. That was a fun one.
Thank you, Dustin. I had a blast, man.
Thanks for listening to this episode. My key takeaway is just how much easier this concept is to understand and implement than DISC, even though it's really the same thing. And also, apparently I'm an owl. So that's something else new that I learned. So next time you're meeting someone new on a sales call or in your personal life or wherever, take a pause and try to figure out what type of bird they are. Give it a shot and see what you think. So if you enjoyed this episode, please head on over to Apple Podcasts and leave a 5-star review. And as always, I'll be back next Tuesday with a new episode.